It's Erik, Thor, and today we're talking about Enneagram, and we're talking about the personality type in itself. And really, what I'm trying to do with today's video is get down into nailing down your core motivation. Because what I keep seeing when it comes to the Enneagram is that we keep confusing our process with our motivation. We make several mistakes when reading our own motivation, and we tend to misread our own motivations. Our biggest mistake is that we read our motivations based on what other people think our motivation is. So a lot of the time, you might be called helpful. Other people might say, "You're so nice." And you might think that's my motivation, to be nice. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's an easy misunderstanding to make when you don't really think about yourself or what you do or why you do it. It's easy to accept that surface explanation and to go, yeah, I'm nice. I'm a nice person. That's what I like to be. But when you start digging deeper into your motivations, what you might see is people are always inclined to confuse the results with the intent. And I tend to believe the intent is more important than the result. The intention with which you are doing something says more about you than what you are doing. So we are always looking at the result. And we look at result for a particular reason. It's the easiest thing to see about a person. They are helpful, they are nice, they are strong, they are tough. It's much, much harder to understand the motivation or the intent behind it. So looking at why a person is tough, why a person is strong, why a person is nice. What you might notice is this is why we confuse our personality type. This is why we tend to mistake ourselves to be a certain personality type instead of another. Because we are so focused on how other people see us and also what we are to other people, what we have learned and adjusted ourselves to do, what we have adapted ourselves to be, what we put forward to other people. You know, when you start looking at intention, how can it be so dramatic? How can we misunderstand ourselves so dramatically? Well, think about this. What is a reason for being strong? When you start asking that question, you might actually start brainstorming down quite a lot of things. What is a reason for being strong? Okay, we can be strong because we are loyal to our friends and we might want to make them happy. That's a very Enneagram 6 style of thinking. I have to be strong for my friends. I'm not being strong because I value being strong, but I have to be strong for the sake of my friendships and for loyalty. For people to trust me, I have to be strong. If I'm not strong, they won't trust me. They won't depend on me. They will feel I'm unreliable. What is the reason behind Enneagram 5? Why would an Enneagram 5 want to be strong? Well, because to them, being strong is being competent. The Enneagram 5 does not want to be incompetent, does not want to be stupid, does not want to be unable. They want to know how to do something. They want to be prepared. So the motivation to be strong has to do with a fear of inadequacy or of not being smart enough or not being able to do something and being showing to other people that you're stupid, that you're that revealing to other people that you're actually not that intelligent. That's a very difficult thing for an Enneagram 5. And what happens when we get to stereotypical Enneagram 8 description, you might see the trait strong thrown in there. Enneagram 8 wants to be strong. And okay, everybody else reads this description and goes, yeah, me too. I also want to be strong. That's what happens. Everybody wants to relate. And then to relate, they start building bridges. And this is a very natural human thing. We want to relate to and understand one another. For the most part, if we like the other person, we want to understand them and we want to think like them. And we can genuinely admire their qualities. So what we're doing here is we're confusing what Enneagram 8 appears to be, the stereotype, with the drive behind it. You know, the stereotype can be quite difficult because then you can have a lot of strong Enneagram 8 types that don't feel strong, that don't feel powerful, that don't feel like they have power or influence, that feel actually that people don't listen to them, that they can't get their voice heard, that people don't take their advice seriously, you know, that they're not being taken seriously, that people aren't heeding their advice. And they can feel pretty weak, you know. So when you're looking at that, the stereotype creates this ideal. So what I'm doing when I'm writing Enneagram descriptions is I'm trying to create two sides, a positive side, a neutral side, and a negative side. I know that almost all Enneagram 8s have at some point wrestled with powerlessness. Realizing and wanting to be powerful, but also realizing what you don't have power over. That can be quite difficult. So Enneagram 8 types, they're likely to feel powerful, but they're also likely to feel weak. And they are likely to feel torn between these two, to feel, oh, I'm not powerful enough when they're at their lowest, and at their best to feel, oh, people listen to me. Oh, people take me seriously. Oh, people are adjusting to what I say. They are listening to me. They are changing. They are fixing. They are making things better thanks to my advice and to my critical feedback. So this stream should be dedicated to running through the Enneagram and getting down to the deeper motivations and away from the stereotypes. Now let's move from Enneagram 8 to Enneagram 9. What's the key difference? Well, if you look at Enneagram 9, what you have is the utopian type, also known as the innocent type. This is a positive and reactive type, so it's quite different from the Enneagram 8. Where the Enneagram 8 is critical, the Enneagram 9 has a positive motivation or a romantic motivation. What could we be at our best? What would the ideal outcome be? If everybody was happy, what would we do if everybody was happy? If the Enneagram 8 has a proactive motivation, what can I do to make things better? Right now, what decisions can I make? What action can I take? What can I do? The Enneagram 9 has a reactive motivation. So how can I adjust to what's happening around me? Okay, if this is what people are doing, what can I do to adjust to that? How can I accommodate that? If other people want to do this and that person wants that, how can I accommodate this? If I know what needs other people have, how can I make sure everybody gets what they want? How can I make sure everybody gets the best outcome? So the Enneagram 9's motivations there, it's almost directly opposed to the Enneagram 8. The Enneagram 8 and the Enneagram 9, they're both decision-making types. So what they are both doing is they're engaging their ethical function and they're engaging their judgment, their decision-making. So they're making decisions to deal with or to achieve this deeper motivation. So the Enneagram 8 is using their decision-making proactively. The Enneagram 9 is using it reactively. Reactive decision-making, that's pretty simple. It's, if that person does that, what can I do then? If this happens, what can I do then? If this doesn't go the way I planned, what do I do next? So reactive decision-making, that's quite open-ended. It can always adjust. It's never set. Enneagram 8s, they often want to make a set decision. Okay, so this is the decision. Reactive decision-making, that's pretty much, well, we could do this, or maybe we could do that, or maybe we could try this. So that's what you're getting down to, reactive versus proactive. A key difference. Positive versus critical, another key difference. Enneagram 1 then. What do you have there? What do you see in Enneagram 1? The Enneagram 1, that's the rebel type. The Enneagram 1 is critical like the Enneagram 8. So how can things be better? Things are not good enough. What can I do to make them better? How can I improve the situation if it's not going the way I want it to? but it's also reactive. So it's based on observation. If that person does that, or if that person says that, now that this person has done that, how can I improve on that? So that's based on improving the world around us that we have observed, the things we have seen. How can we make it better? So the rebel, the reformer type, is trying to improve on and fix problems it sees in society. The Enneagram 9, it's a positive type. So the Enneagram 9 wants to create the best outcome, just wants everybody to be happy, just wants to make things better. The Enneagram 9, it has a critical tendency. So the mindset is things are not good enough. There are issues here. That person is not doing it the way they should be doing it. If that person changed this, they would be doing it better. The 9 is inclined to see the world as the ideal outcome. The Enneagram 9 is inclined to think romantically almost about things. To see everybody, to want everybody to be happy, and to see, oh, if everybody's just happy and if everybody just has what they want, it will all be good. So the Enneagram 9 is quite a supportive type. Like, it doesn't critique you, it doesn't criticize you, it doesn't get down on you, it doesn't try to fix you or change you in any way. It's quite happy with you the way you are. It's like, the way you are right now, that's fine. Just the way you are, what you're doing right now, that's all okay. The Enneagram 1, it sees how you can improve or how you could be better. The hero type comes from this 8 style proactiveness and this Enneagram 9 style optimism. So when you look at the hero, what you're looking at is proactive decision making, trying to make things better, trying to intervene, trying to go ahead in a process and to take charge and to lead the way, set an example, a positive example, an almost romantic ideal. Let's all do this good thing. If we all do this good thing, it's all going to be great. If we all charge ahead and try this out, we're going to fix this. So the hero stands almost opposed to the Enneagram 1 in this. The Enneagram, the hero, it looks at and thinks and focuses on the ideal outcome. It has this key goal in its head, like, I am going to do this and then everything's going to be great and everybody's going to be happy and everybody's going to have what they want. So the hero believes in this ideal, even though this might not be the case. You might achieve this and people might not be happy anyways. You might achieve this, or you might almost achieve it and then you might fail because you set a really high romantic, almost too idealistic goal that couldn't have been met anyways. It was just beyond your level, beyond what was realistic. So the hero struggles with this, like, overconfidence in goal setting and in proactiveness, like being almost overconfident about its ability to get something done and to take on more than what it can handle. That's typical hero stuff. Now, all of this gets pretty difficult when you're getting down to and understanding the MBTI in relation to this, because there is a misunderstanding of the Enneagram 9 as a mediating type. So anybody that likes to solve conflicts, anybody that likes to use diplomacy and communication to talk things through, to make sure everybody is got what they want, they're going to think they're 9s. Feeling and judging types, they are far too likely to over-identify as Enneagram 9 types for a very good reason. The traits, the Enneagram 9 description has gotten confused with the feeling, judging, cognitive process. Feeling and judging is like the communication function. So its goal is, if I can phrase myself correctly, if I can speak about something, communicate with other people, share with other people, I'm going to solve this problem. Doesn't say anything about how you're going to do it. If you're going to do it proactively or reactively, or if you're going to be romantic, or if you're going to be critical in your communication style. It only says you value communication and mediation. Often feeling and judging types, they love diplomacy and team building and connecting people and building community. Feeling and judging types, they often have community around them. That's almost one of their most distinguishing qualities. If you know a feeling and judging type, you also know they probably have a family or a community, people they hang out with, people that are connected to them in some way or form. That's what they do. They're great at making themselves feel connected to everybody around them. Enneagram 9 is mistaken as a mediator, and is more appropriately seen as the innocent, idealistic utopian, focused on hoping for an ideal outcome and kind of adjusting their expectations on the world around them. What you do is good enough. No matter what you do, it's good enough. You don't have to do more. You've done good. You don't have to push yourself. You don't have to work too hard. You're good the way you are. That's the Enneagram 9 mantra, like the perfect utopia where we don't have to work so hard, where we don't have to push ourselves, where we don't have to do so much, where everybody is just happy and everybody just adjusts and Hakuna Matata, just sees the positive in life, just enjoys life the way it is. Enneagram 8, that's confused with thinking and judging. Why is it confused with thinking and judging? Because the decision-making style, like thinking and judging, it's the architect function. So it plans, it designs, it constructs, it builds up, it makes sure it works on, it keeps working on, it keeps putting things together on top of each other. So it's like putting one piece of wood on, then putting another on top of it, and then another on top of it. That's thinking and judging. That's how it works, the process in itself. So it's a very serious function. That's one of the misconceptions. So it's associated with leadership. When we think of the typical boss, we think of a thinking and judging type. We think of it because we see the boss as the kind of person that provides structure and the order, and we see them kind of as the architect of the organization, the one that built it all, the person that put it all together, the person that designed every part of it and made sure like all the frameworks were there, all the processes were there to make it happen. But then you think of a lot of leadership figures like politicians, and you see that's not a lot of thinking and judging there. Leadership and power can be exerted and wielded in many different ways. Thinking and judging is just one way. There are also feeling and perceiving aids. Thinking and perceiving aids. Feeling and judging aids. If you think of a feeling and judging aid, think of Obama, Barack Obama. It's a perfect example. Leading through his voice and through his communication. He's not trying to build an organization or a company or to wield power that way, but he's wielding it through his voice, through speaking to people, meeting with people, building relationships with people. Think of the feeling perceiving aid. What do you see? Well, feeling and perceiving aids, they're pretty interesting because they are the reporting leaders in a sense. They wield power through listening. And how can you wield power through listening? And how can you wield power through that level of interpretation? Feeling and perceivers, what do? Well, one thing they're very good at is pushing buttons in a sense. So they can understand what you're saying, and they understand what you're trying to do, and they understand people really well. They're excellent at intercepting people's behavior, what people are doing. So they can troubleshoot people. Often what they will do is they will ask you a lot of questions. So why did you do that? Why did you do it that way? Why didn't you talk to me first? Why didn't we discuss this? That's feeling and perceiving. It can always be like an interrogating function when in the Enneagram 8, because it's so full of questions. And questions have a lot of power. When you ask a person a question like, why are you doing work this way? It can actually be a very strong form of influence. People start going, I don't know, like, that's how I did it. And then they start wondering, should I have done it differently? And that question is, of course, biased. It's loaded, it's charged. So the feeling perceiving type's opinion is visible in their question. So they say, Why did you do it that way? Insinuating there was another way to do it. And of course, what they're trying to get you to do is to guess what it is that they want you to do and to come up and do that. And it's much easier to do it that way almost, because that way you can plant the thought in their head. In rhetoric, I learned it's much better to get people to think the right answer than to tell them the right answer. Use logic or use smart questions, strategically placed questions, to get people to think the way they do. And that's pushing buttons all over. Make the person feel the way you feel and to think the way you do. Put the idea in their head, make them think it was their idea. And they're going to do it. That's power for an Enneagram 8 feeling and perceiving type. They're excellent at this. Gonna catch up with chat for a second. Hey everyone thanks everyone for being here. Thanks Mine of an Empath for being here as well. I am not at 10,000 subscribers yet, but I'm feeling the hype. I really want to hit this goal this summer. I'm just 1,000 subscribers away. I'm growing with 600 subscribers a month, at least 650 now. We're growing like crazy. So I really think there's a good chance we'll hit it this summer. I'm going to work really hard to make that happen. And any help you can make to make that happen, I really appreciate that. What's the difference between the 9-wing 8 and the hero? And does it have wings? Don't we all have wings? What is an ENFP Enneagram? Well, the stereotype of the ENFP is the Enneagram 7, but also I would say the hero archetype fits pretty close with the ENFP, but also the Enneagram 2, I would say, fits pretty well with the Enneagram, with the ENFP, but also the 4 sometimes, depending on how you describe it. And also, I would say the sexual type, the sexual instinct in Enneagram fits really well with the ENFP. So when you think about the 7, I'm going to take a step to the head types for a second. When you think about the 7, all the traits are there for an ENFP. It's not like all the stereotypes are there. If you look at the base descriptions, they will talk about how the ENFP 7 is scattered. The 7 is diverse, versatile. It is opportunity oriented. It's focused on what could I do next? What could I try out after that? What could I do then? So it's often future oriented, just like extroverted intuition can be. It can be very next step oriented. It can think of different opportunities around it. And it can see so many opportunities, it can become quite scattered. So I could try that and that and that and that. Where should I go? What should be the best way to go now? What could I do then? The 7 is completely filled with these stereotypes, and they are stereotypes because none of them actually describe the 7's core motivation or their core desire. So when we talk about the 7, I wish we would return to the question of the 7's core desire. And okay, first, what is the 7? The 7 is a curious and a proactive type. So just like the Enneagram 8 or the hero, it's a proactive type. So it's generally focused on curiosity, as in like wanting to learn, eagerness to learn, to take on new opinions, to try out new things, to have new experiences. And obviously what we assume is everybody, all 7s are going to be curious about the same things. We all assume they're going to be curious about opportunities, possibilities, options. But Entertain for a second that is not the case. Entertain that there are INFP 7s that are really curious about theories, really want to learn all the theories, really want to study all the different like theoretical explanations for how the world works, really curious about philosophy. They really want to read everything they can get on this field of philosophy. They want to read about this philosopher. They want to study that theory, and then they want to hear about that theory, and then they want to think about how these theories are connected. You know, when you look at the Enneagram 5, what you're looking at is such an introverted, intuitive stereotype. The 5 is the stereotype of introverted intuition, and the 7 is the stereotype of extroverted intuition. The 5 is described as a kind of visionary. At their best, they're described as visionaries, theorists. They are excellent at formulating theoretical explanations for how the world works. When I see the 5, and when I look at the core motivation of the 5, what I'm looking at is actually someone quite fixed in how they see the world. The 5 is not open. They are not curious. They are not willing to entertain new ideas and see that idea and take on perhaps that new perspective. The 5 fixates on a certain idea. They want to prove and test this idea. Is this theory right? Is this idea really going to fit? Is it really going to work? So they keep building on that and testing for it. And, you know, 5s, what I tend to talk about, like the 5 is characterized by archetypal greed. That's kind of interesting. It's associated with avarice. It's associated with a desire to prepare and prepare as much as possible before it does something. So the 5 is a quite reactive type. It does not want to take action. It wants to prepare ahead of action. And it wants to prepare by learning as much as possible, by getting as much information as possible to support its opinions and beliefs and what it wants to do. So there is something set that they want to do, that they think is the great thing to do. And the 5 keeps on just amassing data, and they can keep on thinking about something without doing anything for a real long time. That's 7 is characterized by restlessness. 7s want to keep doing new things and keep trying new things, and they get bored if they don't get the chance to. So there's always something new to study, always something new to learn, always a new perspective to take on. And what we need to be doing is we need to be really going through all the Enneagram descriptions, and we're going to need to start circling around and cutting out all the things that we know from the perspective of the Myers-Briggs and from the cognitive functions is a Myers-Briggs personality type trait or a cognitive function. And then we need to focus on and isolate what is the key motivation here, what is characterized by this mindset, what is genuinely this mindset. What I see people doing today is they keep trying to fit it all together into one. So when you're an ENFP, you're automatically sorted into the 7 trait. And here's the thing, something really interesting about ENFPs and also ENTPs. Not all ENFPs or ENTPs are explorers. Not all ENFPs and ENTPs are 7s. The 7 is the archetypal explorer. But all ENFPs and all ENTPs are adapters. Adapter is a much more key trait for the ENFP personality type. Because an adapter, what are they doing? Well, they're looking at new information around them. And they're looking at things that are happening and things that are changing. And then they're looking at, how do I adjust this and adopt this? I have this idea. How do I adopt this? I'm thinking about this. How do I apply this? As soon as I tell a theory, what ENFPs start doing is they start applying. Okay, on my friends, on that friend, on that parent, on that. They start immediately putting things to practice. They're amazing at this. They are not necessarily explorers. They are not necessarily inclined to seek new discoveries and always seek new opinions. In fact, some of them can be archetypally stubborn. Like this, just like the Sage type, just like Enneagram 5, some ENFPs and some ENTPs can have this opportunity or this idea, and they are hyper focused on this idea. And they're only looking at opportunities that will help them with this idea. They're collecting opportunities that will feed onto this core idea, that will help propel them towards this thing they want to do. And they can actually be quite critical. Critical in the sense of, that's not going to work. This opportunity is not going to work. I'm not going to jump and try that out because I can see a million ways this could fail. With so many people there, with 33 people there, it's amazing. Okay. So the Enneagram 6. Actually, let's go a step to the heart types for a bit. The 2, 3, and the 4 types. What I've noticed about the 2 that I feel is quite interesting is the 2 trait is associated with, and a lot of things here are actually quite correct. You know, a desire to want to help other people, a focus on other people's happiness over your own, a desire to focus on other people's needs first and then your own, a tendency to be more oriented by, in a sense, what you can do for others than what you can do for yourself. The archetypal 4 is associated by self-centeredness. The 4 is generally only focused on their own experiences and their own emotions and what they dream of and their hopes and their aspirations and what they want. So, you know, I really want to achieve this. I really want to get this done. And an interesting thing when you look at the 2 and the 4 against each other is the 2 is and really focuses on and associates and identifies with the success of other people. When a 2 sees other people succeed, it's happy. When it sees other people struggle, it feels a need to intervene and to help them out and to put things right. The 2 is always trying to make things better for you. They're always trying to go in and help you and fix you and change you and make sure that you study, that you do things, that you got everything you need. They're always trying to understand, why are you upset? What is wrong? Is there something wrong? Is there something you can help you with? They're always looking at and thinking there's something wrong that they need to do something to fix or to do something about. The 4 can be so in their own heads and so self-absorbed that they don't really realize that there are other people around them, you know. So the 4 can find themselves, you know, like, I think they can get so into their own process, you know, the artistic process, the creative process. And the creative process, it has this downside of being selfish and self-centered. Because you're trying to make something, and all you're thinking about is, how do I make this? How do I make my next YouTube video? What do I do next? How do I make this better? How do I improve on this? And it doesn't notice necessarily that other people around them are struggling and that other people need them. They are late because, oh, I really had to finish this and I had to work on this. You know, the 4 can get this criticism directed to them. They're focused on their own emotions or their own thoughts or their own experience and getting that out there. So they're not necessarily seeing other people. So other people get upset and go like, don't you notice me? Like, why aren't you like paying more attention? You know? So that's the struggle there. You're getting at the key motivation. The MBTI is pretty interesting. I believe the introverted feeling process, the extroverted feeling process, the introverted thinking process, the extroverted thinking process is pretty strongly overlapping with the 2, 3, and the 4 archetypes. The 3 is often associated with the extroverted thinking type, like ENTPs, ENTJs, ESTJs, ESTPs. A lot of them identifies Enneagram 3. Because when you look at the Enneagram 3, they talk about results-orientedness. They think about meeting target criteria, doing more, producing more, making things better. When you look at the Enneagram 2, it's actually quite associated with extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling is associated with the people, the community, what other people think and feel, how other people see me, how I'm dressed, how I look, how I appear. That level of all that we can touch related to life and people and relationships, that all touches into extroverted feeling. Who do I know? Who is in my family? Who is in my close friendship circles? What is my friends up to? What are my family members doing? What is that person over there struggling with? Extroverted feeling cares a lot about that. It's very affectionate, very passionate about the struggles they see around them, the people they see that are suffering, the people that they are having a good time and being out. So the 4 has this core struggle of envy. And actually, envy can fit pretty well with even an extroverted feeling type. Because some extroverted feeling types, they're going to look at other people's success and other people's happiness, and they're going to be thinking, why can't I also be that happy? Other types, like the Enneagram 2, is going to hyper-focus on that person's happiness and be like, I'm happy because that person is happy. And that's quite a difference in mindset. The 2 believes my success depends on the success of other people. So if other people are sad, even though you're having a good day and even though you are happy, you can't feel happy. You don't feel allowed to feel happy as an Enneagram 2 type. If other people are struggling, you're not allowed to feel happy. The Enneagram 4 preaches a level of authenticity. And its focus is to almost create some kind of tool, or to create something or to make something that represents itself and represents its truth and who they are and what they feel and their innermost thoughts and feelings and experiences. That hyper focus on self can be actually quite rewarding, because you're able to create something that is a representation of your own feelings. And in this, it helps you process your own feelings. And it becomes an outlet, a creative outlet, to help you deal with those passionate emotions and that affection that you feel as an extroverted feeling type. If you're, as an extroverted feeling 4, not engaged in creativity, all those emotions, all that passion, it has no outlet. So it's a necessary outlet for that emotion. Where an extroverted feeling 3, what you're noticing instead is, I have to set a positive example for the people. I have to achieve this, make this, complete this, deal with this, overcome this, become better, improve myself, perform more, perform better, improve myself, to set a positive example to the people around me. It's a completely different outlet. What Yeti says, I have 2 tendencies, bad, feel like it can get out of hand and turn into criticism. Yeah, actually, an interesting thing is, I believe the Enneagram 2 is a critical archetype. Because, the 2 is, and always wants to, and is associated with trying to fix other people. The criticism 2s can get is, stop trying to fix me. Stop trying to save me. I am the way I am. I'm just who I am. That's the kind of criticism you can get as a 2. You're trying to make another person happy, by seeing what they're struggling with and coming up with advice and trying to guide them and talk to them and listen to them with the help that you will change them, redeem them, make them better people than what they are right now. So the insinuation is they're not good people right now. So that's something Enneagram 2 struggle with. Looking at and focusing on the problems in a person and trying to solve people's problems. Sometimes without even being invited in. Like, have I been asked to come in and intervene here? Have people asked for my help? A lot of people need your help and do need help and should be helped. But Enneagram 2s often need to learn to wait until they have been asked before they can do it. They can say to people, I'm here to help if you need me. But if other people say no, they better just back away, because otherwise they're going to take on an impossible project and they're going to get a lot more resistance than what they need in their life. So I'm wondering, what Enneagram are you the most confused by? Type in chat, like, which Enneagram do you find the most difficult to understand, or which thing do you feel is the most contradicting? Because what I'm feeling when I'm processing through the Enneagram right now, and I'm trying to run through all the Enneagram types and connect it to my own process, my own cognitive functions, and what I feel is quite a lot of cognitive dissonance. Because that and that does not add up. I say I have this trait, but then I do that. I thought I was this type, but then I end up doing this. And I think when you start seeing both systems together, what you're noticing is you've gotten a few things confused. I have gotten a lot of things confused. When you're not seeing both systems, you're just living with that cognitive dissonance. It's just there. You're using both systems simultaneously, sometimes to mean the same thing, and you're just borrowing and you're just using it to fit your own. But if you want to use them both genuinely, what you have to accept is they're two different systems, two different islands, placed on two different places. Sometimes they might look similar, but they're two different islands. Just because they look the same does not mean they are on the same place. So how do they really work? Lavin Homeschooling says INFP 4. Saku says INFP 5, wing 6. Is it possible to flow through Enneagrams? I don't believe so. I believe we all have our own mindset, our own unique worldview. Nissi is an INFP 9. Okay, we've got a lot of INFPs in this chat today. INFP 8. Perfect. Why don't you flow through my Enneagram types? Well, what happens is when you are a positive mindset, you can sometimes become critical. That's not what the concept means. A positive type prefers to see the world in a positive way when healthy, but can disintegrate until and become a critical type at their worst. So you got people that are and see the world in romantic ways. Everything's going to be great. Everything is going to be perfect. I have this dream vision in my head and we're all going to be happy. And then that falls down and they become super critical and they become super upset and everything sucks and everything is just shit. And that's when you have a bad day. But when you have a good day, you're a positive type. So that's a key, that your mindset, your personality is positive, positively charged. When you're a critical type, when healthy, what that means is you can see problems. You can see things realistically. You can see when there are issues. You can see when there are things to be fixed. You can see when there are things that could become better. So you can always work on and improve on things. You can always find yourself striving towards this mindset. But then when you meet struggles and difficulties, what often tends to happen is they tend to disintegrate into positive types. So they become super, they start like twisting their mind and saying, oh, I'm happy just the way I am, and things are great. Oh, they're so stressed to the point where they start going, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to pretend to be happy. I'm just going to try to be cheery and just like fake it all. And it can look quite malplaced when you try to be happy when you're not happy. When you try to, when you fall into a romantic thinking, when you go from being a critical type and then suddenly you fall into like overly romantic thinking and not healthily romantic thinking. A proactive type can disintegrate into a reactive type. So they are constantly like trying to do more, and then they start feeling resistance and obstacles, and they start feeling stressed out and burdened. So they just give up and go like, fuck it. Not going to try anymore. There's no point. And then they just give up. And reactive types, you know, they start out with that. They are not passive. Proactive types, they can become passive. Reactive types, they can go from being reactive and then suddenly a deadline shows up and they're pushing themselves and rushing and everything, I have to do everything at once. You know, that's the reactive type. They go from just observing and waiting and preparing, and then suddenly the test is here and they have to scramble and like, do it all at once. That's typical reactive types. I didn't even touch on active or careful or methodical types. They're also very interesting. I'm definitely gonna touch on them in another video. But today, this is all I can do. It was way too much to take on in one video. I hope I can make some more comprehensive things. What I do want to say is all my Enneagram related articles have now been updated. Every single Enneagram description has been written. There is one for basically every type right now. Enneagram 2, Enneagram 3, Enneagram 4, Enneagram 5, Enneagram 6, Enneagram 7, Enneagram 8, Enneagram 9. All of them are done. So I hope you all check them out and study up your type, and also check out my cognitive function articles and compare and contrast. I'd love to see people do that. Compare and contrast. Okay, write the checklist. NP versus Enneagram 7. NP versus Enneagram 5. What similarities and differences can you see? What overlaps can you see? What confusions can you see? What contradictions can you see? That's what I'm doing right now, and I hope that can teach us a lot more about the Enneagram and about the MTI than what we knew before. And I hope it can do what I set out to do a year ago, really challenge some of those hard-rooted stereotypes out there. Thanks everyone for joining in. I hope you had a great stream. I sure did. You know, I'm always tired when I have to do these live streams. Before I'm like, I've had work for 7 hours, and now I had to go to work and get back, and I had to make dinner. But then I get started, and then I'm just energized by all of you. You all give me so much energy. It's really insane. So thanks everyone for joining up, and do subscribe and like if you haven't already, and leave a comment in the video afterwards to let me know how you felt. I hope to see you all in the next video. I will probably not stream tomorrow. and probably not the day after either. But maybe this weekend. I hope that will be the case.